much more serious. All right, how to dominate fantasy football. All right, so today, first we're going to talk about, well, my credibility in the matter. I want to make sure you guys understand that I'm definitely an expert when it comes to fantasy football. A fantasy football overview, because I'm sure not quite everybody on the planet has played. I'm sure there's like 3 or 4 people, octogenarians and stuff that make have played that have figured out the smart over there. But other than that, I'm sure you all play, since there aren't any people that fit it together. Then I'm going to give you some draft advice. There are a few stages in the fantasy football season. It definitely starts with drafting, so I want to make sure you understand how to draft properly. Then we're going to go over the grooming of your team. So we're going to talk about the waiver and free agent wire. We'll go over some expert analysis as far as how you should go about getting some opinions and analysis throughout the season, right? I'm going to give you some pro tips, random things that kind of keep in mind in order to keep your team at the top of the league. All right, my credibility. So I've been playing fantasy football for many years, at least something like 7 or 8. And I've played in a few different leagues, different people, locals, people I played with I knew in college, things like that. I've won a few times, which is pretty good for 7 or 8 years, but won multiple times. And I've lost a few championship games, so that means I've been at the top most of the time. And every single time I didn't win, where do you just right off the top? Right? Has nothing to do with having a superior team. Fantasy football? Well, it's really nothing more than Dungeons and Dragons for jobs. I mean, they're doing the same thing. They're talking about football instead of wizards and orcs and goblins and stuff like that. In general, fantasy football is not really football. You don't even really need. If you didn't know anything about football in June, you could be an expert in fantasy football come draft time in late August. You could, trust me. Fantasy football overview. Here's how it works. You can either get together physically like these guys, or you get together online, which is a little more typical and makes a little more sense, especially since a lot of us have families and stuff like that. It's like, look, I only got an hour. I can't just drive half an hour, meet for a couple hours and stuff. So a lot of times you do it online. It's also fast because then everybody's teams are electronically in, right? So anyway, everybody drafts a team. Now you're only going to have offensive skill positions. What does that mean? People who don't follow football, it means quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, things like that. People who actually score. You're not going to draft a lot offensive linemen. The number one reason why is because the stats of your players are the way that your team scores. So it's like, how are you going to judge the stats of somebody who just stands there, is fat and strong and stands in the way, right? It's kind of hard to judge those stats, right? Anyway, so you draft the people who do any kind of scoring, and that includes kickers and defensive special teams. These teams that you create, so let's say everybody in here drafted, we all got together online and we said, okay, we're going to draft our team. We're all going to play each other once a week, right? So whoever I draft will play everybody who Willie draft, that kind of thing. Your points are measured in the statistics of the players that you draft, right? And you have to improve the team all year because guess what? People get injured. It's football. It happens all the time. People beat their kids. It happens, right? And there are buys, as in every NFL team has 1 week where they get to rest. So, for example, this week the Vikings have a bye. Guess what? Any of the Vikings players I have, if I still had Adrian Peterson on my team, who I drafted in the first round, he would have to be sitting out this week. Right now, as of right now, and like I said, maybe not quite everybody on the planet has played. Are there any super basic, you're not asking expert questions right now? Are there any basic questions of how fantasy football works that you guys want to know?
Role defense players as a goal.
The defensive players individually don't play on a team typically. I'm only going to talk about the most standard kind of rules. So you don't pick individual defensive players, but you will pick a whole defense. Some defenses get a lot of interceptions. They score defensive touchdowns. Some special teams players score a lot of touchdowns, like Cordero Patterson. Like, okay? Anything else? No, I'm not expecting too many questions. Hopefully, the fewer the questions that are asked right now, the better idea is leaning. Okay. Drafted right. So you have a league, everybody in this room, we're all in a league together, and we're going to draft. Okay. Use online rankings. All the major sites, Yahoo, and for example, NFL.com. If NFL really wants you to play fantasy football because it gives you to pay attention to the NFL, you can see watch all the games. Did you watch the highlights? Did you pay attention to all these things? They're advertising programs. So it took them a little while, but they're definitely on board with fantasy football. So they're very happy with it. So use the online rankings. They'll tell you who the next best players are. You might know 50 people in the NFL. Well, yeah, if you're drafting 15 people and you got 10 teams, that's 150 people, right? So use the online rankings, but not religiously, because I definitely look at it and go, no, that guy's way better than that one. That guy's going to suck this year, that kind of thing. Based on what's been happening in free agency, that kind of thing. So use them in general, but not religiously. Typically, my advice would be to go running back in the first 2 rounds. So when your name first is called up, hey, it's Smith's turn to think, okay, I'm going to pick the best running back available. In the second round, I'm typically going to pick the best running back available. Okay? There are a handful of reasons for that. You can get very good players at other positions later. You can find pretty darn good wide receivers in the 5th, 6th, and 7th rounds. You can get running backs get injured a lot. Have to worry about running backs beating their children, that kind of thing. Running backs beat their wives, their girlfriends, and fiancés. It happens. So they get injured a lot, and you want to be really deep at running backs. So you want to have really good, high caliber running backs. Pick them first. In general, not always. Depends on what's available. Try to get a top-tier tight end or quarterback for waves. I italicize that. Because the difference between the top tier of running backs and the second tier of running backs is nowhere near as big as the top tier of tight ends and the second tier of tight ends. The top tier of tight ends is mainly Jimmy Graham and Rob Gronkowski. After that, just wait a little while. Because the point drop is huge. Better to pick wide receiver, and then pick, whoever, some underrated tight end that people don't know about. Have sleepers in mind. Now, a sleeper is someone that a lot of people don't know too much about, and you want to make sure that you can snag them a little bit before other people catch on to it. So maybe you think to yourself, that rookie played pretty darn well as a backup last year. The guy that started in front of him retired or got signed by another team, and this guy, I think he's going to do really well. Or maybe he was a giant stud in college, and he's a rookie this year, and you really think he's going to be an important player on the team. That kind of thing. Have these sleepers in mind. When it comes to drafting your defense or your kicker, I definitely suggest drafting an under-the-radar defense. A lot of people will go a little bit early on defense, and I'm like, okay, so you could have waited 5 rounds and picked a team that has maybe not quite the best defense on the planet, but you picked a couple of wide receivers, a couple of backup running backs in the meantime, while other people are picking defense. It's kind of weird. If you draft a kicker before the second to last round, you deserve a punch in the face. Don't do it. Every time, and when I'm drafting it, I see somebody draft a kicker before the first 2 rounds, I say, or before the last 2 rounds, I say, a little early to draft a kicker, isn't it? And sometimes people draft a kicker and another kicker. And each time, a little early to draft a kicker. A little early to draft a kicker. I say that every time. All right. So now you got your team. All right. Great team and everything. And all of a sudden, I'm just going to pick a random thing. Guy decides to punch his girlfriend. Whatever. And now he's kicked out of it. Ah, jeez, I gotta go get some. Oh, he hits his kid with a tree branch. Oh, man, I gotta go get done with that. He blows out his ACL. What happens? Well, it's not like you just get extra free points throughout the league. Guy's just out. You have to go replace him, right? So you have to groom your team and manage them as the year progresses. So every single week, you can pick new players. Now, I don't mean your entire team. What it means is you can say, this guy that got injured, I'm going to get rid of him. I'm going to replace him with someone who's currently available. Now, of course, a lot of the times you're like, well, they didn't get drafted, they're going to suck, right? Well, there are rookies that have great seasons. There are backups. Like if Adrian Peterson gets suspended from the team, his backup, Jared McKinnon, all of a sudden starts to play pretty well. So you say, I might want to go get that guy. If you're the guy who has Adrian Peterson, you might really want to get him. You might say, I'm not sold on him, I'll go get somebody else. Point is, you have to pick new players that you really don't have to. You could just sit on your team if you're doing it well. So there are 2 ways of doing it. They have the waiver wire and the free agent wire. The waiver wire comes first. So wire is, in general, there's two ways of doing it. You can either do it in order of who sucks the most. Let's say your team is in last place, you get to pick first, right? Or a rolling priority. So first you say after week 1, my team, my 2 starting running backs beat their kid and their wife, and all of a sudden my team's horrible, and I get the first pick. So I say, I'm going to pick that guy's back up. He's going to get to play with me. Then, if the second worst play, team gets to pick the third and fourth pick. With a rolling priority, you hold that. So, for example, if I pick, if I pick somebody off the waiver wire, I'm now 7th priority. That means whoever's number 2 gets to pick anybody who they want. You put this in advance. So, for example, you put the claim in Monday, Tuesday, Sunday, whatever, and the waiver wire basically is processed early Thursday morning, or Wednesday morning, sorry, usually about 3 o'clock. And you wake up on Wednesday morning and you find out, who did I get, right? And then it turns into the free agent wire. Now, after the waivers process, you have like a free-for-all. Now, anybody can go grab anybody. There's no priority, right? And in general, what you want to do is limit the number of moves you can have per week. So, for example, if the default is 4 moves per week. The reason you want to do that is because, let's say, my defense is going to be on bye. Meaning the team that I have for their defense, they're not playing. I got to go get another team. Another team to play. Will says, I'm playing this week. I want to screw them over. I'm going to go pick up every defense and then drop them. So they get put back on the waiver. Whenever you drop somebody, they go back on the waiver wire, which means they can't get picked for a couple of days. So Will says, I'm going to screw this over by picking up every defense and dropping them. And then I can't pick up any defense. So you limit the number of moves so that people can't do something like that. All right, expert analysis. Don't ever take fantasy advice. Most people are morons. Even the experts. There are a ton of free sites. Generally, you're gleaning information, not analysis. Information. The best place to go that I've found is Reddit and Fantasy subreddit because they collect everything for you. So they get all the best news. Look at the information, not their analysis. Because all the comments are more. Do not go with the high find. That means everybody in general says, hey, do this. Don't necessarily do that. Understand football and analyze everything yourself. You're smarter than that. You can do it. You have to have faith in yourself. If you second guess, question, and go with what everybody else says, I'm going to do this. Alright, so pro tip. Time management. Don't spend hours every day. There are a bunch of idiots that do that stupid. They're probably just trying to get out of doing anything important in life. You really should have a bunch of better things to do anyway. So here are key days. Tuesday evening, because the waiver wires are processed Wednesday morning. Tuesday evening, get the latest information. Spend just a few minutes, 10 or 15 minutes, getting the latest information. Who should I pick up on Wednesday? Wednesday morning, this is how I wake up. Lying down, sleeping, but alarm goes off. I bend over and grab my phone. Right away Wednesday morning. I'm not kidding. Wednesday morning is when I see who did I get, who's left on the free agent line, and I make my move then. I make my move for anybody else. Thursday evening, because they have Thursday football now, and Sunday morning. So that's it. Those are the only times you do it. Just before game time on Thursday and just before game time on Sunday. 11:30, 11:45. Make sure Arian Foster's going to play today because his groin's not acting up or something. Watch game highlights on NFL.com. Because you're not going to be able to catch all of them. If you have Sports Center, fine, whatever. But this is kind of, you can watch it whatever you want, right? So it's very, very condensed way of getting it very quickly. So you can actually see who's good instead of just looking at numbers. Every site has numbers and statistics, and I want you to make sure you pay attention to those things. See how good these are, and these guys are, and how good their teams are. Make sure you actually see it. Find your lead taco. Most of you have, what's this all about? There's a show called The League on FX. This guy's name is Taco. Now, The League is a fantasy football show. Well, fantasy football, right? This guy's an Indian. He doesn't know how to play fantasy football. He's terrible. Find your lead Taco and make a trade with him because he's dumb. Trade advice. People don't like to trade, right? People are always like, I don't want to trade. I'm scared of trading. Just keep making offers. Just They try to make trade with everybody all the time. See who's fighting, see who's looking for something, so you can find out what's going on. Don't insult the others' intelligence. Don't try to trade them a terrible player for a great player. They aren't that stupid. They might be stupid, but they're not that stupid. Keep talking and counter-arguing. As soon as you get some bites, keep talking to them. Try to get them to think that your players are better than they really are. Try to get them to think that their players aren't that good. Try to convince them that this is a good move for them, right? And keep counter-offering until you do something. I just snagged Antonio Gates from my league taco just this past week. Maybe that means something to tell you guys. Trade away, everybody wants to trade away, meaning I get way more than you in the trade. Problem is, people aren't that dumb. They know that you're offering them a bad trade. It's really stupid. Everyone always offers all the trades. Try to make it so much easier. Trade away your depth, meaning you have a great draft, you got a bunch of good players on your bench, you can't play every. You have extra players, you can't play them. You have to look at your roster and say, where am I weak? I need to go find people who have better players at those positions and trade away my depth. Because you're keeping your ear and your nose to the grindstone, you're paying really good attention to the free agent waiver wire, you know that you are going to do a good job getting the best players. So it's okay to trade away your depth, because you're going to fill that bench with the best players. Upgrade your starters. So the starters are the only people who are playing. Trade away the depth, even if it's a bad trade for you, make sure that your starting lineup is better. Trade 2 for 1. If you trade way more players than you get, what in general you're doing is you're upgrading the talent of the fewer players that you get to be better, and then you have slots open to go pick up the best players in the waiver wire. Smart. So you're really trade away 2 for 1. You're getting the one player you get plus who you pick up on the waiver wire. Really, really good trade. In conclusion, fantasy football is really fun. I suggest doing it if you are interested in football at all. Just average about 5 minutes a day. Don't think something weird about it. It's kind of crazy. Be prepared going into the season so you draft properly. Keep your nose to the grindstone. Pay attention. Make sure you make the right moves every week. And trust yourself, your own analysis, and trust that you will do a good job on the waiver and free agent line.
We just scored a touchdown with fantasy football.